Moscow. August 19, 1991. The coup d'état of the 20th century. In 1985, Gorbachev became the General Secretary of the Soviet Union. After Gorbachev took office, he embarked on an ambitious reform plan, which was embodied in two concepts of perestroika and glasnost, namely, economic, political and open reorganization. Perestroika is a Russian term meaning reorganization or reform. This is an economic and political reform plan implemented by Mikhail Gorbachev. The goal of perestroika is to improve the economic performance of the Soviet Union and promote the sustainable development of the economy by improving production efficiency. The plan includes liberating various economic sectors from the strict control of the government, promoting business innovation and encouraging the privatization of some economies. Glasnost means, open the door of information, or, open the door of media. This is the policy adopted by President Mikhail Gorbachev to clarify and open information and discussions in the Soviet Union. The goal of glasnost is to create a freer environment and exchange information, opinions and ideas. This includes canceling some censorship of the media structure and allowing the media and individuals to participate in debates and criticisms on political and social issues. These reforms have led to the abolition of the national foreign trade monopoly system and the imbalance of the poor capital goods supply system of the whole organization. Hundreds of units became exporters overnight, not only products produced by the Soviet Union, but also imported goods purchased for domestic consumption. The income from this business transaction is huge. Subsidies in the Soviet Union are calculated according to the ease of purchase of goods, which is much lower than the trade price in Western countries. Goods were transported abroad by train, which caused an unprecedented shortage of goods in the Soviet Union. Ordinary people lack basic things, from sausages and toilet paper to plates and shoes. In the summer of 1989, there was a serious shortage of necessities such as sugar, tea, medicine and detergent, followed by the tobacco crisis. As a result, the purchasing power of the ruble declined, and the inflation rate rose to 7.5% in 1989 and 19% in 1990. The explosive black market inflation has caused people's savings to suffer heavy losses and cause a serious drop in living standards. Reduced supply led to collective strikes by miners in Donbass, Kuzbass and Karaganda basins. In big cities such as Leningrad, Sverdlovsk and Perm, desperate people began to hold demonstrations spontaneously. The Fifth Reform Program, under Gorbachev, 1985 to 1991. In economic terms, instead of gradually reforming the management system, following the centralized planning mechanism, on the basis of receiving reasonable elements of the market economic mechanism, Gorbachev advocated privatization and autonomy. Decentralizing all socio-economic activities, undermining the unified economic management system across the federation. Politically, Gorbachev implemented the policy of publicization. Accordingly, the state abolished censorship restrictions, accepted freedom of speech throughout society and established private media outlets. Advocating publicization, opening the campaign to distort the history of the Soviet Union during the Great Patriotic War, and the work of building socialism. Misrepresenting the values of the October Revolution, considered the Soviet political system as an obstacle to economic development. Gorbachev advocated building a pluralism, multi-party system, which would separate the Communist Party of the Soviet Union from the leadership of the Soviet government. Implementing that policy, Gorbachev proposed to amend the content of Article 6 of the Soviet Constitution, which stipulates that the Communist Party of the Soviet Union plays the leading role of the state and the entire Soviet society, to share leadership with other political parties and accept multi-party system. Distorted Lenin slogan, "Cadres decide everything." Gorbachev removed all key leading cadres of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union anti-reform, and replaced them by opportunists with anti-party and anti-socialist ideology. This policy of Gorbachev started the process of disintegration of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. In foreign policy, instead of bringing the Soviet Union into the world with an equal position, Gorbachev accepted compromises with the US and the West in line with the policy of building a common European house. Gorbachev's reform programs made the Soviet Union increasingly weak. As a result, by 1990, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Georgia had either changed their names or officially declared their independence from the Soviet Union. On June 12, 1990, the Russian Federation claimed, and subsequently limited the application of Soviet law, especially those relating to finance and economy, to the territory of Russia. The Union-wide referendum of 17 March 1991, boycotted by the Baltic republics and by the republics of Armenia, Georgia, and Moldova, was by a majority of citizens of all other republics in the country. Union, all expressed their desire to preserve the Soviet Union. After much negotiations, 8 of the 9 republics, with the exception of Ukraine, approved the new Union Treaty with certain conditions. The treaty would transform the Soviet Union into a federation of independent republics with a common president, foreign policy, and military. The Russian Federation, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan intended to sign the treaty in Moscow on August 20, 1991. August 1991 coup. On August 19, 1991, the day before Gorbachev and a group of leaders of the republics intended to sign a new federal treaty, a group calling itself the State Emergencies Committee attempted to take power in Moscow. The group announced that Gorbachev was ill and had ceased to hold the position of state president. When the coup broke out, Gorbachev was on vacation in Crimea, and stayed there for the duration of the coup. Gennady Yanayev, vice president of the Soviet Union, was appointed acting president. The 8 members of the committee include KGB chairman Vladimir Khrushchev, Interior Minister Boris Pugo, Defense Minister Dmitry Yazov, and Prime Minister Valentin Pavlov, all of whom came to power under Gorbachev. However, the coup was met with opposition from the people. Large mass demonstrations against the coup leaders took place in Moscow and Leningrad, divided loyal security and defense forces, making them unable to be mobilized effectively to suppress antagonism. After the coup led by Yanayev, Yeltsin strongly opposed the coup. The people of Moscow gathered near the parliament building of the Russian Federation. To show their support for Yeltsin and Gorbachev, they together built barricades around the parliament building, to block the coup's tanks. The coup faction tried to arrest Yeltsin but failed. Yeltsin mobilized the people to join in resisting the coup. By August 21, most of the coup leaders had fled Moscow, and Gorbachev was allowed to leave Crimea and then return to Moscow. Although he was back in position, Gorbachev's authority was severely damaged. Both the federal and Russian power structures fell out of favor with him as support shifted to Yeltsin. During the fall of 1991, the Russian government gradually took control of the entire federal government. In November 1991, Yeltsin issued a decree banning the Communist Party over the entire Russian SFSR. In early December 1991, Ukraine held a referendum to regain its independence from the Soviet Union. A week later, on December 8, Yeltsin met with Ukrainian President Leonid Kravchuk and Belarusian leader Stanislav Shushkevich at Belovetskaya Pushcha, where the 3 presidents announced the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and there would establish a Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS, with voluntary participation instead. According to Mikhail Gorbachev, president of the Soviet Union at the time, Yeltsin kept the plans of the Belovetskaya meeting a secret, and the main purpose of the disbandment was to get rid of Gorbachev. Mikhail Gorbachev also accused Yeltsin of violating the will of the people expressed in a referendum on preserving the Soviet Union, in which a majority of the population voted in favor. As of December 21, 1991, the leaders of 8 other former Soviet republics were Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Moldova, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. Signed the decree on joining the CIS. On December 24, 1991, the Russian Federation took the seat of the Soviet Union at the United Nations. On December 25, 1991, Gorbachev resigned as president of the Soviet Union. The red hammer and sickle flag of the Soviet Union was lowered from the Kremlin, marking the complete annihilation of the Soviet Union, after 74 years of existence.